Hey, Smart Authors, welcome back to another episode of the Smart Author Podcast. In today's episode, we speak with Daniel Den, and he has a really cool book called Ideas That Influence. Not only does he have a book, he has a whole box that he gives away for free, just paying shipping and handling costs, which you'll have a link to below in the description. But certainly go check that out. Today's episode, we essentially spoke about the whole concept of creating ideas that help you stand out in a crowded marketplace today. Generally speaking, we're introduced to 4 to 10,000 different marketing messages every single day. And his book and message will help you just stand out in the crowd and build a business that is kind of at the top of all the noise. Beyond that, we had a really interesting conversation around consumption and the correlation of consumption to people buying your offers on the back end and other offers from you, generally speaking. So I think you're going to get a lot out of the episode just based on that conversation and rabbit hole that we went into, because there's a lot of new ideas that were introduced that made me go, that is definitely a different way to think about it. And as an author, you've written a book, consumption is important. How do we get people to come back and consume more from you again and again and again, so that the more time they consume with you, the more potentials and possibilities there are for them to spend more with you over time. So enjoy this episode, take a lot of notes, and I can't wait to hear what you think about the episode. Hey, Daniel, welcome to the show.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much. Chris Benetti, the smart author, masterfully helping people get more books out. Thank you so much, Chris. I'm so excited to be here.
Dude, it is absolutely a pleasure. You came into my world a few months ago and had a very crazy, unique idea, which is very fitting for someone like yourself. And you basically came out and said, Chris, I've got a book, but we're not selling books. We're actually selling boxes, and the book is inside the box. Plus, there's all these other amazing things as well. And that just struck me because I've had never actually thought about giving away a book box and including a bunch of other stuff as well in there. So Daniel, I'd love if you could lead with, first of all, who are you briefly? How do you help entrepreneurs? And then tell me a little bit about Ideas That Influence your book and, the whole experience that you help with.
Yes, Chris, thank you so much. I appreciate you. So yeah, a little bit about me. For the past 10 years, I've been helping a lot of business owners, and we have helped over 20,000 students and clients. We have this methodology that I started with my business partner down in Brazil. And the methodology, it's called the X Factor effect, which is fitting for the description that you just gave for Ideas That Influence and the box and everything that we've done. And you're right, it's fitting because of me and everything that we do, because the X Factor effect methodology, it is all about breaking through the marketing clutter. It's about, standing out in the sea of sameness. And we help businesses discover those differences that make a massive difference in their market and that can position them as true leaders in their market and category kings and category queens. And so when I went to write this book, Ideas That Influence, that is all about helping people come up with wildly successful marketing ideas, I had this conundrum where I needed to follow what we preach with the launch of the book. And so one of the things that we've learned, and I wanted to hit on this early inside of today's podcasting jam session with you, Chris. But one of the important things that we noticed is that when it comes to the consumption rates of your products and services, the more you can get your dream customers to consume your product, the better it is for growing your brand. And when it comes to
Mm.
books, that's extremely important. So we were like, okay, how can we take everything that we teach with the X factor effect, and how can we increase the consumption rates of the book?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I can only get on average, and the numbers are like abysmal. I think I've heard like when people buy books for themselves, like they only like read like 10 or 20% of the books they buy for themselves, which is just like horrible, like really bad numbers. So if you're trying to move the needle with your business and with your brand, the question is, how can you get past those numbers? How can you get more than
Mm.
10 or 20% of people to consume your book?
Yep.
And so we followed our X Factor effect principles and turned the whole book into an experience with the 5 experience envelopes. And the good news is, Chris, is that we've been able to increase consumption from what we've like figured out. Like I can't like monitor everybody's reading habits, but like it seems like with the feedback we're getting from people, like I'm getting a lot of people telling me like I'm reading the book, I'm loving the book, I'm like this chapter in the book. I've had people telling me I finished the book, and I'm just like, okay, the consumption rates are above average at least.
Cool. So, what's the book actually about? Like, is it essentially the same kind of concept that you guys help with in the 10x side, to just help people stand out in the crowd and help them kind of ascend to the top of their category and be the leaders?
Kind of. So in the X factor effect methodology that we teach, there's 9 pillars. 9 pillars that we teach for helping you to break through the noise and to become that market leader or that category king or that category queen. And ideas that influence actually just covers one of the pillars.
Mm.
And the name of that pillar is ideas, create ideas that influence, which means, like, what does that mean, Daniel? It's all about creating a marketing message that has the power to break through the marketing clutter. So this is based off of the idea that there's actually a Forbes article that has recently come out that says we're exposed to about 4 to 10,000 different marketing pieces or ads or marketing tidbits out there, like vying for your attention every single day. 4 to
Wow.
10,000 things trying to capture your attention, which is
Mm.
just insane. Now, in Australia, everything's a little bit more laid back and everything. So maybe it's only a couple of thousand in Australia, but still, like, if it's only 2,000 things, like trying to captivate your attention every single day, 2,000 different marketing pieces or ads or whatever. The question is, how do you become that one thing that stands
Mm.
out during the day that like captures and captivates people's attention? How can you break through the clutter of those thousands of different pieces of information trying to capture the attention of your dream customer? And so
Mm.
ideas that influence, it's all about your marketing, and it helps people to discover big, bold, and wildly successful marketing ideas that break through those thousands of marketing pieces that are trying to, you know, get your attention every single day.
Mm. Love that. So, did you find that by being a little bit outside the box and thinking about how you're going to get your book out there and creating a box that's like one level that you've created an idea or a piece of content to kind of break through the norm?
Yeah, the whole box concept was, so basically I was sitting, now both of you are full transparency, we're both friends with Mark Stern. You know who he is. So I was sitting in Mexico next to Mark Stern and the Latimers, Ashley and Josh Latimer. I don't know if you know them, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you do? Okay, awesome. So amazing people, and I'm sitting there. And so to complete the story, um, Ashley and Josh, they're talking about their Kid War Plan. If you haven't heard of Ashley and Josh's Kid War Plan, they've got this really cool journal. And for those of you watching the video, I'm showing it in the video right now. So it's this kid entrepreneurial journal, and it sells like hotcakes. It's really differentiated. It's like the way that it's created. It's just really, really cool. Like they got like these, the way they did their pages. It's really hard to put together, but like it's like they tried to like kind of like age the pages and make it look like this really epic journal for kid entrepreneurs. And they're telling me like, okay, this is like, it's just selling like crazy and we can't produce them fast enough. And then Mark's talking about how everybody that he's been helping with boxes is just, well, not everybody, but like most of the people that he's helped with the boxes are just having this wild success. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my goodness, what if I'm the first, Chris? What if I'm the first person to create, instead of just a free plus shipping book, but a free plus shipping interactive book box experience? And it was this wild idea and an expensive idea. But I was like, well, if I can funnel everybody the right way and have the back end set up the right way with a coaching program and everything, maybe I can give away boxes with the book, and maybe I can do it long term. And we don't know yet if we'll be able to give them away for free forever, free plus shipping. But what we do know is this. It's been wildly accepted, and people are just like absolutely thrilled and blown away by the box, and to the point where we've actually, so we already talked about the increased consumption, but we've actually gotten 1 out of every 3 people that have bought the book to post about it on social media without us asking to post about it. Like, we're not sending out emails saying, hey, your box has arrived, so could you do us a favor and post about it? No, nothing like that. Just people naturally, they're getting the box and they're like, wow, this is cool. Like, this is incredible. Like the experience envelopes, there's even like the light inside of the box. And like it comes with a mug, the Rainmaker mug, and it comes with the coin, the Rainmaker coin. And so everybody is just like, this is amazing. And people are posting about it organically and talking about it organically. And yeah, so has it broken through the noise? Already the answer is yes. Now we just have to figure out how long can we continue to give away the boxes for free plus shipping. And then that'll just be all, it all depends on how well we build out the back end with the coaching program and everything that we're putting together.
Well, I think that's the key distinction. And, hopefully by now, everyone who listens to this podcast has already absorbed all my thoughts around Backend and marketing books. But certainly, if the Backend doesn't align, even with, if you're marketing just a book by itself, like even if you're just doing the book by itself, like the Backend has to align, because especially when you start running ads, like average order value is one thing, and offsetting ad costs, but it typically will still cost you money to sell books and to sell boxes. And I don't know anyone who just like has an unlimited budget for that kind of stuff, So, and we're not doing it for fun. Obviously we want to get our ideas out there and actually help change people's lives. But at the same time, it's like, it's kind of an exercise of like, how do we do it to make money as well? And just selling the box in this case, even if you charge for it, like you wouldn't really make much money on it, for a realistic fair value to charge. Even if you charge $100, like you're still probably not really making any money based on the contents of the box plus shipping the box. Like you might make $5 or $10 maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
And that's really just not going to change anyone's life that much. So, from my perspective, like what you said, Daniel, making sure that the back end aligns, making sure that even your upsell offers align. And we have spoken a little bit about your upsell offers before the episode. I don't want to ruin anything, but certainly, just making sure that whatever you do in your book funnel is an add-on and helps to lend towards where you want someone to go with you later. And if that's the avenue of giving value in that angle, or even a conversion, mechanism for that as well. So, one
Yeah.
thing we spoke about was running challenges as upsells, because challenges can typically convert people into clients, or people working with you on higher price backend offers as well. And so that's definitely something that I think Daniel's going to look at exploring here shortly.
Yeah, here's conceptually, and I'll have to jump back on when we work it all out and have the finalized funnel that is just a smashing hit. But this is conceptually where everything's at. If you're thinking about doing something like this, you're thinking about giving away boxes and increasing consumption and everything. So first of all, like with the normal books, like we said, like 10 to 15% of people might be reading that book if you're lucky, if you're getting out that book. And so, first of all, if you have something on the back end, it's like, okay, so basically you're looking at trying to sell to those 10 to 15% of people that actually consumed, right? Because the other 85% that bought the book and didn't even open it, more than likely they're not going to turn into your high ticket client, right? And so straight away with what we're doing, we're bumping that to, okay, maybe we're at like a 25% consumption rate or higher. And so we already have a bigger pool of people that would be interested in going to the next level because of the brand activation. That's the key word. We're creating a brand activation, and we're increasing that consumption. And so all already I've got a bigger pool of people where I have more potential to sell a back-end product. Now, if I didn't do challenges, if I didn't do anything, if I just tried to get people on the phone, then here are the numbers, Chris. 1 to 2. If I can get 1 to 2 people out of 100 to buy a $10,000 coaching program, then I can give away boxes forever.
Yep.
And so then it comes down to, well, how can we tweak things in the funnel? How can we test things so that we can go for 1 to 2 or more, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5, because we have higher consumption rates. So can we get to 3 people or 4 people out of 100 taking a high ticket program? Well, what does it look like if we're going to do that? Once again, it all comes down to consumption rates. And so that's why one of the things we are doing is we are transitioning over to, we're going to be including a OTO as a challenge. So, you already got the box. Hey, join the challenge. The next challenge is coming up here in a week or two. So for $47, we've got a 5-day challenge, and we'll be walking you through, and everybody as a community will be coming up with big, bold, sticky, and wildly successful marketing ideas. An hour a day for 5 days. Join the challenge. Okay, if we can get a 10% or 20% take rate out of those 10 or 20% of people that take the challenge, that's more face time. That's more of an opportunity in order to sell people into that. Now, we could stop there, and we might already be at the, 1 or 2 or 3 people out of 100 joining a mentoring program. But we're not going to stop there, because this is how the game works, right, Chris? We need as many possibilities as possible in order to try to get people into the high ticket program so that we can continue to give away boxes forever. So on top of that, we also, it's kind of the standard, right, Chris? You have to give away like a free 20 or 30 minute consultation or strategy session that comes along with the book. And so we are also doing that. So one of the things that we will be tweaking very soon is, instead of following up a few days later to try to get people to join that strategy session, we're going to try to get people to book straight away, like right after they go through the OTOs. Okay, OTO 1, OTO 2. All right, book your strategy session. And then that's another opportunity for more face time to build the trust with the client, to give them another chance in order to get into the program. But
Yep.
we're not going to stop there because we don't stop there, right, Chris? We don't
We
stop
definitely don't.
there. You
No, we
never
don't.
stop there. So, what else are we going to do? Well, if we're already doing a challenge, then everybody, every single month that we've already sold that hasn't bought the challenge, we're going to hit them up through email, through ads.
Hmm.
Hey, you got the box. You're enjoying the box. Join the challenge. Join the
Yep.
challenge. And then if everything works, great. If not, so Krista Mashore, she has a really cool strategy where she goes from challenge to 2-day event, where instead of trying to
Mm.
get people into the high ticket, she goes challenge to, hey, pay $97 for a 2-day event. Well, why does that work so well for Krista? It's more FaceTime, it's higher consumption, it's getting in
Mm.
front of people. This all comes down to a strategy that Dan Kennedy has been teaching forever. He says, and I'm summing this up, Chris, he basically says there is a strong correlation with how much your dream clients spend with you and how much time invested they have with you and your content.
Hmm.
So if I can get Chris Benetti to invest 15 hours of FaceTime with Daniel Den, all, X Factor effect related, I've got a high chance of getting Chris into an X Factor strategy group. But if
Hmm.
I've only got 15 minutes of FaceTime with Chris, I have a much smaller chance of getting Chris
Mm.
into my high ticket offer. And
Mm.
that's conceptually the more time you can get people to spin with you, that more FaceTime, more challenges, more 2-day events, higher consumption with your book. That is the key. And I hope that everybody listening, Chris, is having an aha moment, because we have seen this with our funnels in the past, and we have coached multiple clients on this concept as well. Sometimes the only thing that they're lacking is they haven't increased the consumption rates with their dream clients, with how much
Mm.
content they have wanted those clients to consume. Have you seen that as
Mm.
well?
Certainly. And I love the fact that it's the incremental changes to try and get the consumption, and even uh, the thought process of, cool, like, let's introduce a challenge. The challenge can increase the consumption. The consumption can lead to the sale. Let's introduce a strategy session that can increase the consumption, that can lead to a sale. But even the modalities of that being different, and like Krista, like you said, challenge and event, like that's a different type of potential buyer. Will want one of those things, and potentially a different type of buyer might want a strategy session over a challenge.
Right.
Certainly, that's probably more of a advanced buyer would probably just go straight into a strategy session because they don't want to spend the time for a challenge, perhaps, especially if it was pre-framed well. If there was a correlation, hey, you've got the book, and in this strategy session, I basically want to help build your own idea that can influence your audience. So book a time with us, and we'll go through that together. And if you want to, I help to help you implement it further, there'll be an option for that, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it kind of makes it very relatable and tangible. But to further that, more consumption and that whole topic, we've got email follow-ups, we've got SMS follow-ups, and all that kind of stuff that we can do in today's day and age. We can even just phone call people who buy the box as well. And ultimately, we can offer those things again and again and again and again, and people will decide what path is right for them over time. Maybe they might want to read the book first, and then they're like, cool, I want to do the challenge now. And they'll see an email that kind of circles them back to that. Or maybe they'll read the book and they're like, cool, I actually want to book a strategy session now. And the book has an offer for that, or they get an email for that as well. And so, I think, there's so many different conversion points for me that can happen here. And the fact that you're just like, cool, how can I incrementally increase each take rate or consumption rate on each of those little metrics to overall bump up our goal, which is like not selling boxes, it's getting people in the X Factor program and investing with you on the back end. So I just think that that subtle shift, like you can sell less books on the front or boxes on the front. And if you just focus on what are those conversion metrics and consumption metrics that you can increase, then overall you're going to have your goal being met and exceeded essentially in this example. So I just
Yeah.
love the fact that you're thinking about it that way.
And another, for everybody that geeks out over the funnels, the book funnels, the numbers and everything, I learned a really cool thing from Nate Armstrong. He helps people with taxes and real estate and all sorts of really cool stuff. So I was at a mastermind in Idaho with Bart Miller, the I Do Epic mastermind. This was last year. And Nate says this, he's just talking his numbers and talking about how his challenge is working. And he says the one thing, it was like the thing that I took away from the whole event. And he says, yeah, we've seen a pretty strong correlation where for about every hour we get people to stick around in the challenge, it's worth about $1,000. So if I'm trying to get somebody to buy my $9,000 offer or $12,000 offer, I want them to spend about 12 or 9 or 10 or 12 hours with us. And if I can do that, then we usually close the sale. If we can't do that, then we don't normally close the sales. Now, that's not how Nate talks, but I just summed up what he said. But the whole point of me rehashing that story in the worst Nate Armstrong impression possible was this really cool concept of, hey, if an hour of consumption can equate to $1,000 worth of a high ticket offer, now we have something to work towards. Now it's like, okay, if I get somebody on a 5-day challenge and it's 90 minutes a day, well, that's about 7 hours in the week. And then if they listened to 3 hours of the audiobook before they jumped on, well, then I'm at the 10, and then it's not that hard to sell that 10,000. But if I'm missing the mark, okay, that's when we listen to what Krista's saying is working so well, and let's get people over to a 2-day event from the 5-day challenge. Well, if they go 5-day challenge, 7 hours of time invested, to 2-day event where they're on for 5 hours a day, now they're at 17 hours of time invested. And then Krista, I think her normal package is around 23,000. So it's like, oh, well, there we have those numbers once again, an hour per 1,000, right? So things are starting to add up, and then it's like, okay, well, if I have a mastermind and it's a $50,000 mastermind, okay, now it's starting to make sense, because I've done big ticket masterminds down in Brazil, and the most expensive we charged for one of our masterminds was around $60,000 US dollars. And the people that bought, sure enough, they were high consumption before joining the mastermind buyers. They had gone to multiple events, usually. They had gone through multiple of our courses, usually. And there was a high correlation with the amount of time invested and then with how much they were willing to invest with us. So it's a really cool metric to kind of think about, that 1 hour of content consumed per $1,000. And that's why it's so great if you're a podcaster as well. If you have a podcast with 100 episodes, which I've done this. So before I joined the Inner Circle, because back in the day I did join Russell Brunson's Inner Circle before he shut it down for the first time. He's only shut it down once, so it's still open. But when he did shut it down, I was one of the last people to join before he shut it down. And before I joined, I listened to over 200 of Russell Brunson's podcast episodes. We're talking about going back in time when it was called marketing in your car or whatever he called it. So it's I was just like over and over, just episode after episode after episode. So I had listened to over 200 of his episodes. Now, I don't know how many hours that was, but
A lot. Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, I dropped the 50,000, right? But I had spent over 50 hours consuming his podcast.
Yeah.
So it makes sense,
Certainly.
right? If that metric. So I think it's a really cool metric. Maybe we should call the name of this episode, Chris, the 1 hour secret.
The one.
I don't know.
Well, I've got a thumbnail idea. One hour equals $1,000 or something.
Ooh. Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Like,
I've actually got a funny
money.
story about the marketing in your car podcast. I don't know if you got the USB stick.
No, I
Or not?
didn't. I never
Okay.
bought that. I somehow downloaded all of it without needing to
Yeah.
buy the USB stick. But you got the
Okay.
USB stick?
Yeah, so it's like a little USB MP3 player built in one
Yeah.
with like a headphone jack and all that kind of stuff. And in 2017, I actually traveled across India for a couple of weeks. And we had a lot of downtime in a bus, like traveling between like towns and cities and whatever. And yeah, dude, I just had this freaking MP3 player and was listening to Russell Brunson marketing secrets or marketing in your car. And like I literally consumed so many episodes of that. And it was such an interesting time because it was at that time where like he was building ClickFunnels and like all that kind of stuff. And man, what a flashback through time that was,
Yeah.
Wow. Good content.
100%. And then I'm assuming you've spent a little bit of money with Mr. Russell Brunson.
Of course I have. Yes. I've spent a lot of time and money with Russell. So,
and so people think, well, that's crazy. Like, selling this MP3 player and then like it's packed with, I don't know how many episodes. It's all about the consumption. And who did Russell learn that from? He learned it from Dan Kennedy. Dan says there's a very high correlation between the amount of content consumed with your dream customers and how much you can get them to spend with you. Very, very high. So we have this concept. We've taught it for, whenever we had this aha moment of time invested. In today's TikTok world, people are trying to get people to spend less time. They're trying to create shorter books. They're trying to create 15-second pieces of content that, capture people's attention. And they're trying to shorten things. And what we did with the box experience is we said, like, we got to get people consuming. So what can we put in an experiential way into the box to increase consumption? And people think I'm crazy to even send out like the Ideas Rainmaker mug with the entire experience. But the reason why this mug exists is because I wanted something in people's cupboard that reminded them to go back and open the box and read the book. And then if you consume your coffee or whatever you drink out of your coffee mug, then it serves as a constant reminder of, oh yeah, that's right, I should go finish that book because it's a really cool book. And so
you're telling me that you got a coffee mug because you literally wanted consumption to happen.
Yep, exactly. I included the coffee mug as part of the box experience so that consumption of not just delicious coffee would happen, but so that consumption of the entire box experience would be increased. That's the level of where we were thinking. Like, so if there's one takeaway from this episode, Chris, for anybody that's, they're building their book funnel and they're trying to run ads or whatever, try to increase consumption rates, because that is going to directly lead to an increase in your take rates for your back end, for your high ticket, whatever it is that you're selling. So think of ways you can increase consumption, not decrease consumption. Short books are great, right? But on top of that, like, what can you put in people's ears, right?
Mm.
Is there, this private, podcast with jam-packed 10 hours of bonus content that goes along with the 100-page book? Okay,
Mm.
you've increased consumption rates. Like,
Mm.
okay, is there a challenge? Like, what can you do? Like, how can we increase the FaceTime? How can we get
Yeah.
people on the phone? How can we, build that trust, build that rapport? And so the more time you can get them to invest with you, the higher chances you have at closing those high tickets.
Mm. I love that, man. I think that's a fantastic way to wrap the episode. Where can people go and buy your box and find out more about you?
All right. Warning though, if you buy the box and you don't read it, it's going to taunt you. It's going to sit there. The box is going to say, read me, open me, read me. But the answer is it's free plus shipping. And it's available at bigideasbox.com, big ideas with an S. We even ship to Australia and all around the
It's
world.
true. I have a box down behind me that I haven't opened yet because I want to share it on socials. So I've just
Yeah.
been waiting for the time for that.
Yeah. And the funny thing, now that you say that, Chris, you reminded me about like 5 other people. Like, I reach out, I'm like, oh, did you get the book? Like, did it arrive? Like, and then like about 5 other times, just like what you're telling me, Chris, I've had people say, yes, I got it. I'm super excited, but I haven't opened it yet because I'm planning on shooting a video. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this. So, yeah, that's probably, on top of everything else, takeaways for this episode. The 1 hour of content for $1,000, whatever you're offering. Just add experience as best as you can to your book or your product or service or whatever it is you're selling, because people love today a great experience. If you can provide them with a great experience, more than likely they're going to be sharing it on socials and they're going to do a lot of the selling for you, which is another massive benefit of taking this route of being very meticulous about, the experience and how you're trying to help increase your consumption rates.
I love that. Well, we're going to make sure that all the episode links and stuff like that are shared down below, and everything that we've referenced here today. Daniel, it's been a pleasure to have you on the Smart Author podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. I enjoyed learning from the smart author master, Chris Benetti. You are amazing. And yeah, dude, like, people are loving the numbers you're helping them hit with getting more books out. So thank you for helping us.
Most welcome. Thank you for coming on again. Damn, what an awesome episode. If you've got a book that you're advertising or not yet advertising, and you want some book marketing advice directly from me, I'd love to set up a book marketing review with you. It's basically a 30-minute consulting session that you can get for free, worth $1,000, where we can basically dive right into everything that you're currently doing or not doing, and everything that you could do to sell as many books as possible according to your goals. So if you want to sell 100 books a month, 1,000 books a month, or anything in between, we can really help you outline a strategy to help you get there. To book your session with me, just click the link in the description below, smartauthormedia.com/chat, and you'll be able to book a time that suits you to go through everything with me so that we can help you sell some more books starting today. Look forward to speaking to you on the call.